most of us have been on, like, really fun vacations, like going to some sort of tropical paradise or maybe, like, cabins next to lakes. Well, my vacations, on the other hand, pretty much describe my life, which is boring and short.
Yes.
And then whenever we go on the fun ones, they're usually really fun and also extremely short. There was one that I remembered in particular that I enjoyed most of all and will remember the rest of my life, which leads up to what the moral of the story will be, which is the greater things in life require patience. It was around August of 2007. It was the final weeks before school started. Everyone was off work, vacation, having fun, trying to fit in that last-minute vacation. That was exactly what my family did. In the beginning of the month, they told me that we were going on some sort of big vacation, but they never told me where we were going. This annoyed me. About every day, at least 4 times per day, I would ask, "Where are we going?" And I'd either get the response of, "We're not telling you," or it'd be like something really dumb, like they'd say, "We're going to Garrison." I was no dummy back then. Time passed, and it was probably the longest and most painful weeks of my life. Once again, where are we going, where are we going? Finally came the day where we left of where we were going. It was somewhere down south, so I was trying to narrow down, thinking, okay, St. Louis, and we crossed the border of Iowa and Missouri. And then I started to put 2 and 2 together. I finally asked again, where are we going? And they said, okay, we're going to Kansas City. Then came the most famous phrase of that trip so far. Just me, I think I was 7 at the time, saying, "What's in Kansas City?" And they said, "Not much." So we got to the hotel. It was around midnight or so, and that's when I learned that I thought that this was like the end of the road. We're staying in Kansas City, all hope's gone. That's when I learned that we had to leave the hotel at 4 a.m. to go to the airport. And I was thinking, okay, what's going on? So it was 4 a.m. We got out of the airport. We got to the airport. It was still dark out. I think, never mind. I thought it was cold, but it wasn't. And we got there. We parked in a huge parking lot and ended up having to take a bus to the terminal. Got there, got our tickets, and then we waited at the gate and waited until like 7 o'clock, which is when I also asked, why couldn't we come here at 6? And then they said so we could get a good spot. I finally asked, where are we going? That's when I got the answer I was looking for. Oh, so looking for. The answer was San Diego, California. I remember jumping out of my seat, jumping and screaming with excitement, and my dad had to literally grab my shoulder and push me down, and he's like, just be quiet. When we got to San Diego, we went to all the attractions, went to SeaWorld, went to the beach, went to Legoland. At that time, I was obsessed with it, so that was probably the highlight of all of it. Went to a few Navy bases. The way that we got in was because my mom served in the Navy during Vietnam, and she still had her military ID, so it was just kind of flash in and get in. Most of the time we spent at the Navy Exchange, which was where most of the time most of the time for lunch I ate Pizza Hut Express, which was in the little food court of the Navy Exchange. If you don't know what it is, it's pretty much a mall on the side of a Navy base. It's like a Sears almost, that they sell TVs, clothes, other stuff. They have an actual food court. I just kind of looked around. And then came the return trip, which was the longest 3 days of my life. Instead of flying back, we had to drive back because we had so many souvenirs. If you're wondering how we were able to drive back, our grandparents who live in Bakersfield, California, a couple way north, they gave us a van to drive back. And that's pretty much how we got all of our cars, was that they gave us their old ones. So we drove a van, it was like a 02 or something, so it wasn't that old. And we drove it back across desert, grassland. We went through Arizona, where we stayed for 2 days to go look at the Grand Canyon. After that, we left, went on to New Mexico, went through Oklahoma, where we drove through a it's like a dust devil, I think it's called. It's like a tiny dirt tornado that's not dangerous. It was like in the middle of the road, and it was like, what is that thing? We just drove through, and it was like, oh, okay. So we drove through Oklahoma, no severe storms or tornadoes or whatever, and then we went up north through Kansas. It was extremely hot, but not as hot as Arizona. It was extremely hot there, and boring also. Corn, small town corn, barn, farm. And then we got back to Kansas City, which is where we had the original car parked. So we made our separate ways. My dad and I took the new car. My sister and my mom took our current car, and we drove back to Iowa. After the entirety of that trip, it was about 7 days in total. I learned through that entire experience that the greater things in life do require patience. Thank you.